Hi, I'm MJ from Lioness Publications, and we're going to do part two of the New Jersey 2025 elections. What we're going to look at is two of the candidates that are running for the office of governor, and the Republican is Ciattarelli. Sorry about that. And then the Democrat is Sherrill. Now, the current governor is hitting up against term limits, which means that he has to move out of office. So it's sort of like an open, uh, there's no incumbent. So sort of like an open field here. Now, the previous the office has been held, I believe, for two or three times by Democrats. And it is a relatively Democratic state. So I would expect that the Democratic candidate is going to do well. But we don't know. There could be shifts. And, these races in 2025 are really going to give you an idea of not just how Democrats are doing, but how GOP are doing. So if the GOP candidate does worse than would be expected, that could be a predictor of where the 2026 elections may end up being. If, on the other hand, the Democratic candidate wins, but by a lot less than expected, that's sort of a danger sign, too, for the 2026 election. So the two races that we're talking about for governor are pretty important in letting us know currently how voters are feeling in effect in a state that has had a Democratic governor that's leaving, and in a state, Virginia, which has a Republican governor that's leaving. So it'll be interesting. So let's take a look at Ciattarelli's chart first. We have the transits, we have the progression, and we have the solar arc. Now, on the transits, where even though I have two marked off, the other one is not happening for a while, so we're not going to cover it. We're going to cover the Uranus square Uranus. What is that? Change is being stressed in effect on change. So what this means is that we want change, but it's very disruptive. So it's not coming across easily. There's a lot of dissatisfaction. And it usually corresponds to life shifts. It's not a great sign for him to win, but it's not really saying, no, he can't win with this. So he could still win, but it's not saying, since Uranus is also changed, it doesn't appear that he would be a progressive type of candidate to move in a different direction where the GOP would likely go, but more progressive. So let's take a look at the progression. And in this case, what we have is got one angle we're going to talk about, and that's the Jupiter conjunct the South Node. South Node is where we give out. Now, this is a sort of karmic type of point. And what this means is that you're dealing with some outdated ideas, and you keep on going through these cycles that you're repeating rather than moving ahead. So this is an indication that he's not looking to make things or learn from his past mistakes. He's playing the same game and expecting different results, and that doesn't happen. So this is an indication to him that he should be looking at playing the game differently if he wants to get different results. So now let's take a look at the solar arc. And on the solar arc, we have Uranus squaring Jupiter. So what does that mean? Sudden changes. Okay. And in effect, even though it's on opportunities, it's a square angle. So it's a stress angle. It means we have changes, and in effect, they're hitting the opportunities, but it's not in a way that we can use them. In fact, it tends to be more destabilizing. So when we look at what the GOP candidate has, there's nothing really that seems cohesive enough to really push him into a win. So there are things, that maybe he can get past and move ahead, but it's not something I would say, okay, yeah, this guy, he has a good probability for winning. I'd say it's low. It's low. So now let's take a look at Sherrill and see what she has on her. Okay, that's a question. I don't want that one there yet. Okay, this is better. Okay. So let's take a look at what she has. Now, we do have a angle here, which is Jupiter, ink Jupiter, but we're not going to talk about it because it doesn't happen. It, in effect, gets to a point of happening and then turns around. So we're not going to cover that one. We are going to talk about the Saturn square Jupiter, because that's actually going to be happening right around 10/20 something, right before the election. She's going to start having a lot of restrictions here. She needs to have discipline. She needs to be really cautious. So there may be some places where she's blocked in her efforts in moving ahead. And she's going to be overly idealistic. Now, this doesn't really say that she's going to be overconfident, but it does mean that, Saturn is trying to rein in the expectations here. So it's a difficult angle. It's a square. So it's restricting. And what's it's restricting? In effect, the opportunities. So while it seems that she has a very good ability to win the election, this is saying she needs to be careful, she needs to be cautious, and she needs to make sure that she's not, she's using her opportunities wisely. If she doesn't, this can be a negative. Now, let's take a look at another one that's really quite nice, which is the Pluto trine Pluto. This is actually happening right around 12/4 of this year. And Pluto is, she has major changes in her life. And since this is happening after the election, that could be an indicator of what's happened. And she can bring, since it's a trine, which is a good angle, it means she's bringing grace to this. Pluto is not acting in a disruptive fashion. It's acting in a relatively graceful fashion, being able to redo the foundations of her life, and in effect build new foundations. So that is really a powerful angle. Now let's take a look at the progression. And in this case, we've got Mercury, which is squaring Mercury. This is going to be happening right around 10/12 of this year. And I'm not sure when the debates are going to be happening. Probably before this point, if there are debates. But this would probably not be a good time for her to have a debate. She needs to update her thoughts. In effect, where she is not where she should be. So there are new things that are coming up, new things that are challenging her, and she needs to put that into her base of information, and she hasn't done that. That means that all the new ideas she has are not integrated into her base of information, and that's not a good place to be. So this is something that could be a game changer, because she could be having loose ends when it's coming to identifying her policies. Now, let's take a look at the next page. And in this case, even though we have angles, what happens is they're both not happening until mid of next year. So we're not going to talk about them at this point. Now, between both of them, Sherrill has the Pluto trine Pluto. So that is an indication of moving ahead, moving into a new foundation, building that up, in effect. So that's a really powerful indicator that this could be a step that she moves into. It also indicates that she's building a firm base. And if she's building it for New Jersey, it would also tie in a lot of the progressive type of things that might be coming to the forefront. Now, when we talk about him, about Jack, he's not really, there's not much here that, we've got the Uranus squaring Uranus. We've got the Jupiter on the south node. There are things that he could, if he changed and rather than playing the same game, changed his game, yeah, he could, learn from his mistakes or learn from, in effect, past knowledge and play a different game and come out ahead. But right now, the way I'm seeing it, it's likely that it's going to be Sherrill that will, unless something changes, and I will be checking this as it goes along. But it doesn't say how much she would win by. And again, the projection sort of is that the Democrats would take it. So this is not mind-blowing that I'm saying that, it's more likely she would take it. But it's by how much she takes it. So that's important in this case. It's going to be important for, what's coming up in the next year. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great evening.